The halls of Oakwood High School were abuzz with the usual hustle and bustle of teenage life, but one girl stood out from the crowd. Stephanie was the undisputed queen bee, her presence commanding the attention of her peers wherever she went. With her perfect blonde hair, flawless complexion, and designer wardrobe, Stephanie exuded an air of confidence and superiority. The other students, both boys and girls, seemed to gravitate towards her, eager to bask in the glow of her popularity. She ruled the school with an iron fist, using her sharp tongue and cutting remarks to maintain her status. But there was one student who refused to be intimidated by Stephanie's relentless pursuit of power: Emily. A quiet, unassuming girl with a kind heart and an unwavering sense of self, Emily found herself the target of Stephanie's cruel taunts and bullying. It all started on the first day of their junior year. As Emily walked through the doors, clutching her worn backpack and books, Stephanie and her clique of followers instantly spotted her. With a malicious grin, Stephanie sauntered over, her entourage in tow. Well, if it isn't little Miss Frumpy," Stephanie sneered, eyeing Emily's plain t-shirt and faded jeans. "Did you raid your grandmother's closet this morning?" The group of girls behind her erupted in laughter, their cruel giggles echoing through the hallway. Emily felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment, but she refused to let Stephanie see her discomfort. "I'm sorry, Stephanie, I didn't realize fashion was a requirement for getting an education," she replied, her voice calm and steady. Stephanie's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a sneer. "Oh, so the little charity case thinks she's funny, does she?" she spat. "Well, let me tell you something, Emily, you'll never be one of us. No matter how hard you try, you're just a pathetic little loser, and that's all you'll ever be." The other girls erupted into laughter once more, their cruel words cutting through the air like a knife. Emily felt her heart sink, but she refused to give Stephanie the satisfaction of seeing her cry. As the days turned into weeks, the bullying only intensified. Stephanie would find new and creative ways to torment Emily, mocking her intelligence, her family, and even her hobbies. She would deliberately sabotage Emily's assignments, ensuring that she received poor grades, and encouraged her followers to exclude her from social events and activities. The relentless abuse took a toll on Emily, and she slowly began to withdraw into herself. Her once vibrant spirit dimmed, and she found it increasingly difficult to muster the courage to face her tormentor each day. But even as Stephanie's cruelty escalated, Emily refused to give in. She knew that she had to stand up for herself, to show Stephanie that she couldn't be broken. So she continued to hold her head high, refusing to let the other girls' taunts and insults break her. As the school year wore on, the divide between the two girls only grew wider. Stephanie and her clique remained the undisputed rulers of Oakwood High, while Emily retreated further and further into the margins, her once vibrant personality slowly fading away. Yet, despite the constant barrage of insults and exclusion, Emily never lost sight of who she was. She knew that her worth was not defined by Stephanie's cruel words, and that one day she would find the strength to rise above the pain and reclaim her life. As the final bell of the school year rang, Emily couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. The summer months would provide a much-needed respite from the torment she had endured, and she was determined to use that time to heal and regain her confidence. Little did she know, however, that her journey of self-discovery was only just beginning. For as the years passed, the events that unfolded would forever change the course of her life, and Stephanie's, in ways neither could have ever imagined. As the summer break came to an end and the new school year began, Emily braced herself for another round of torment at the hands of Stephanie and her clique. She knew that the relentless bullying would only continue, but she was determined to stand her ground, not let it break her. Stephanie, on the other hand, had spent the summer vacation reveling in her status as the queen bee of Oakwood High. She had gone on a lavish family vacation, returned with a fresh tan and a new wardrobe, and couldn't wait to flaunt her enviable lifestyle in front of her classmates. On the first day back, Stephanie wasted no time in resuming her campaign of cruelty against Emily. As Emily walked through the halls, Stephanie and her friends would deliberately bump into her, knocking her books to the ground and laughing at her clumsiness. "Oops, sorry, Emily," Stephanie would say, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Didn't see you there. You know, you really should watch where you're going. Wouldn't want you to get hurt now, would we?" The other girls would giggle and nod in agreement, their eyes gleaming with malicious delight. Emily would simply pick up her books, her jaw clenched, and continue on her way, refusing to give Stephanie the satisfaction of a reaction. But Stephanie wasn't content with just physical torment. She also began to target Emily's intelligence, mocking her answers in class and dismissing her contributions as irrelevant or stupid. "Really, Emily, do you ever have anything intelligent to say?" Stephanie would sneer, rolling her eyes. "I swear, it's like you're not even trying." The other students in the class would laugh and murmur in agreement, their eyes firmly fixed on Emily's reddening face. She could feel the weight of their judgment and the sting of Stephanie's words, but she refused to let them see how much it hurt. As the weeks turned into months, Stephanie's cruelty only intensified. She began to target Emily's family, making snide comments about her parents' financial situation and the state of their modest home. "Ah, I can't believe you actually live in that dump," Stephanie would say, wrinkling her nose in disgust. "No wonder you're such a loser. Your whole family is probably living off government handouts or something." The other girls would nod in agreement, their faces twisted into cruel sneers. Emily felt her heart sink, but she refused to let Stephanie see the pain she was causing. In the face of such relentless bullying, Emily's once vibrant spirit began to dim. She found it increasingly difficult to muster the energy to engage in her hobbies or socialize with her few remaining friends. The constant barrage of insults and exclusion had taken a heavy toll on her self-esteem, and she began to doubt her own worth. Yet, even as her confidence waned, Emily never lost sight of who she was. She knew that her value as a person was not defined by Stephanie's cruel words, and that one day she would find the strength to rise above the pain and reclaim her life. As the school year drew to a close, Emily couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. The summer months would provide a much-needed respite from the torment she had endured, and she was determined to use that time to heal and regain her confidence. Little did she know, however, that the events that would unfold in the years to come would forever change the course of her life, and Stephanie's, in ways neither could have ever imagined. As the new school year began, Stephanie's relentless bullying of Emily only continued to intensify. The once vibrant and confident girl found herself sinking deeper and deeper into a pit of despair, her self-esteem crumbling under the weight of Stephanie's cruel words and actions. Stephanie, on the other hand, was thriving. She had spent the summer solidifying her position as the queen bee of Oakwood High, using her charm and status to manipulate her classmates and maintain her position of power. With Emily firmly in her sights, she was determined to make the girl's life a living nightmare. One day, as Emily was walking to her locker, Stephanie and her group of followers cornered her in the hallway. With a malicious grin, Stephanie began to taunt the unsuspecting girl. "Hey, Emily, I've been meaning to ask you something," Stephanie said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "How does it feel to be the biggest loser in the whole school?" The other girls erupted into laughter, their cruel giggles echoing through the hallway. Emily felt her face flush with humiliation, her heart racing as she struggled to maintain her composure. "I'm not a loser, Stephanie," Emily replied, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm just trying to get through high school like everyone else." Stephanie scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. "Oh, please, Emily. Everyone knows you're nothing but a pathetic little nobody. You'll never be one of us, no matter how hard you try." She paused, a cruel smile spreading across her face. "In fact, I think it's time we made sure the rest of the school knows just how much of a loser you are." Before Emily could react, Stephanie and her clique had launched into a barrage of insults and taunts, their words cutting through the air like a knife. They mocked Emily's appearance, her intelligence, and even her hobbies, each jab more cutting than the last. As the other students in the hallway turned to watch the spectacle, Emily felt her heart sink. She wanted nothing more than to disappear, to escape the humiliation and pain of Stephanie's relentless bullying. But Stephanie was far from done. Sensing that Emily was on the verge of breaking, she decided to take things a step further. Turning to her followers, she gestured towards Emily with a sneer. "You know, girls, I think it's time we show this little charity case where she really belongs," Stephanie said, her voice dripping with malice. "Let's make sure she knows she'll never be one of us." The other girls eagerly nodded, their eyes gleaming with excitement. Suddenly, they surged forward, surrounding Emily and cutting her off from the rest of the hallway. Emily felt her heart race as they closed in, their taunts and jeers growing louder and more relentless. Trapped and overwhelmed, Emily did the only thing she could. She ran, pushing her way through the crowd. She fled down the hallway, tears streaming down her face. Stephanie and her clique watched with smug satisfaction, their laughter ringing out behind her. As Emily reached the safety of the bathroom, she collapsed against the wall, her body racked with sobs. The pain and humiliation she felt was almost too much to bear, and she couldn't help but wonder how much more she could take. But even in the depths of her despair, Emily knew that she couldn't give up. She had come too far to let Stephanie and her cruel clique break her. Wiping away her tears, she steeled her resolve, determined to find the strength to rise above the torment and reclaim her life. Little did she know, however, that the events that would unfold in the years to come would forever change the course of her life, and Stephanie's, in ways neither could have ever imagined. As the school year wore on, Stephanie's relentless campaign of cruelty against Emily only intensified. With each passing day, the once vibrant and confident girl found herself sinking deeper and deeper into a pit of despair, her self-esteem shattered by the constant barrage of insults and exclusion. Stephanie, on the other hand, was riding high. She had cemented her status as the undisputed queen bee of Oakwood High, using her charm, wealth, and social status to manipulate her classmates and maintain her position of power. And with Emily firmly in her sights, she was determined to make the girl's life a living nightmare. Day after day, Stephanie and her followers would torment Emily, mocking her appearance, her intelligence, and even her family. They would deliberately sabotage her assignments, ensuring that she received poor grades, and they would go out of their way to exclude her from social events and activities. The other students in the school, cowed by Stephanie's influence and the fear of becoming the next target, turned a blind eye to Emily's plight. They watched in silence as the girl's once vibrant spirit dimmed, their own self-preservation instincts overriding any sense of empathy or compassion. As graduation day approached, Emily found herself counting down the days until she could finally escape the torment that had defined her high school experience. Stephanie, on the other hand, was relishing in the glory of her success, her trophy case overflowing with awards and accolades that celebrated her academic, athletic, and social achievements. On the day of the big ceremony, Stephanie strutted across the stage, her head held high as she accepted her diploma and the numerous honors that had been bestowed upon her. The other students erupted into thunderous applause, their admiration and envy of the queen bee palpable. Emily, meanwhile, slipped away quietly, her own accomplishments overshadowed by Stephanie's larger-than-life presence. As she walked out of the school for the last time, she couldn't help but feel a sense of relief that she had finally escaped the torment, but also a deep sense of sadness that she had never been able to truly thrive in the toxic environment that Stephanie had created. The years passed, and the two girls went their separate ways. Stephanie continued to ride the wave of her success, landing a high-powered job and a wealthy husband that only served to bolster her already formidable sense of self-importance. She reveled in the envy of her former classmates, secure in the knowledge that she had achieved the kind of life that most could only dream of. Emily, on the other hand, struggled to rebuild her self-esteem and find her place in the world. She had always been a sensitive soul, and the relentless bullying she had endured had taken a heavy toll on her. It was only through sheer determination and the support of a few close friends that she was able to slowly regain her confidence and find her footing. As the years went by, Emily threw herself into her work, using her empathy and compassion to help others who had faced similar adversity. She found solace in her career, and gradually, the wounds of her high school experience began to heal. Then, one day, the announcement came, their high school was hosting a 10-year reunion. Stephanie eagerly RSVP'd, her excitement palpable as she anticipated the opportunity to flaunt her success and revel in the envy of her former classmates. Emily, on the other hand, found herself torn, the memories of her torment still painfully fresh. She wasn't sure if she could bring herself to face the people who had once been so cruel to her. As the reunion approached, Stephanie began to meticulously curate her appearance and rehearse the stories of her success, determined to make an impression that would leave her former classmates in awe. Emily, meanwhile, struggled with the decision of whether to even attend the event, her heart heavy with the weight of the past. Little did either of them know, however, that the reunion would become a pivotal moment in their lives, one that would forever change the course of their destinies and force them to confront the demons of their shared history. As the years passed, the two girls, Stephanie and Emily, found themselves on vastly different paths. While Stephanie continued to ride the wave of her high school success, Emily struggled to rebuild her life and her self-esteem in the aftermath of the relentless bullying she had endured. Stephanie, ever the ambitious go-getter, had parlayed her popularity and academic achievements into a lucrative career. She landed a high-powered job at a prestigious consulting firm, where her sharp intellect, charm, and ruthless determination quickly propelled her up the corporate ladder. With her newfound wealth and status, Stephanie continued to bask in the envy of her former classmates. She flaunted her designer wardrobe, her luxurious apartment, and her wealthy husband, reveling in the knowledge that she had achieved the kind of life that most could only dream of. In contrast, Emily's journey had been a far more arduous one. The scars of Stephanie's bullying had cut deep, leaving her with a profound sense of insecurity and self-doubt. It had taken years of therapy and hard work to slowly rebuild her confidence and find her place in the world. But Emily was nothing if not resilient. Determined to use her experiences to help others who had faced similar adversity, she had pursued a career in social work. Empathy and compassion had always been her strengths, and she found solace in the knowledge that she was making a real difference in the lives of those she served. Yet, despite her professional accomplishments, Emily still struggled with the lingering effects of her high school trauma. The memories of Stephanie's cruel taunts and the ostracism she had faced from her peers continued to haunt her, tainting her sense of self-worth and her ability to fully embrace her own successes. It was during this time that the announcement came. Their high school was hosting a 10-year reunion. Stephanie, ever the social butterfly, eagerly RSVP'd, her excitement palpable at the prospect of reuniting with her former classmates and showcasing the fruits of her hard-won achievements. Emily, on the other hand, found herself torn. The idea of returning to the scene of her torment filled her with a mixture of dread and apprehension. She had spent years trying to move on from the pain of her high school experience, and the thought of having to confront those demons once again was enough to make her stomach churn. As the reunion approached, Stephanie began to meticulously plan her appearance, carefully curating her wardrobe and rehearsing the stories of her success. She wanted to ensure that she made the perfect impression, that she would leave her former classmates in awe of her accomplishments and envious of the life she had built. Emily, meanwhile, struggled with the decision of whether to even attend the event. She knew that there was a part of her that yearned for a sense of closure, a chance to confront the people who had once been so cruel to her. But the fear of reopening old wounds and being met with indifference or, even worse, scorn, was almost too much to bear. In the end, it was a chance encounter with a former teacher that convinced Emily to reconsider her decision. The teacher, a kind and compassionate woman who had always been a source of support and guidance for Emily, encouraged her to face her fears and embrace the opportunity for growth and healing. With a deep breath and a renewed sense of determination, Emily made up her mind. She would attend the reunion, not to prove anything to Stephanie or the others, but to finally confront the demons of her past and reclaim the confidence and self-worth that had been stolen from her all those years ago. Little did either Stephanie or Emily know, however, that the events that would unfold at the reunion would forever change the course of their lives, and their relationship, in ways neither could have ever imagined. As the 10-year high school reunion drew closer, Stephanie found herself filled with a sense of eager anticipation. She had spent weeks meticulously planning her appearance, determined to make the perfect impression on her former classmates. Carefully curating her wardrobe, Stephanie selected a designer gown that accentuated her figure and showcased her impeccable taste. She spent hours in front of the mirror, practicing her confident smile and rehearsing the stories of her success, eager to bask in the envy and admiration of those around her. After all, Stephanie had come a long way since her high school days. She had parlayed her popularity and academic achievements into a lucrative career, rising through the ranks of a prestigious consulting firm to become a respected leader in her field. Her wealth, status, and enviable lifestyle were a testament to her hard work and unwavering ambition. But as the reunion approached, there was one name that Stephanie couldn't help but dwell on: Emily. The memory of her former classmate, the quiet girl she had so mercilessly bullied, continued to linger in the back of her mind, a nagging voice that refused to be silenced. Stephanie couldn't help but wonder what had become of Emily. Had the girl she had so cruelly tormented managed to find happiness and success in the years since their graduation? Or had the scars of her high school experience left her forever broken and diminished? The thought of confronting Emily at the reunion filled Stephanie with a peculiar mix of emotions. Part of her was eager to show off her achievements, to rub her success in the face of the girl she had once deemed a loser. But another, more unsettling part of her felt a twinge of guilt, a residual remnant of the conscience she had worked so hard to suppress over the years. As the day of the reunion arrived, Stephanie stepped through the doors of the old school, her head held high and her confidence radiating. She scanned the crowd, her eyes searching for familiar faces, until suddenly she caught sight of a woman who looked strikingly familiar. It was Emily, but not the timid, withdrawn girl Stephanie remembered. This Emily carried herself with a poise and self-assurance that Stephanie found almost unnerving. Her once dull eyes now sparkled with a newfound confidence, and the tension that had once defined her posture had been replaced by a graceful ease. Stephanie felt her heart skip a beat as their eyes met, and for a moment, the two women simply stared at one another, the weight of their shared history hanging thick in the air. Stephanie could feel the familiar pangs of envy and insecurity rising within her, but this time there was something else, a faint glimmer of respect, mingled with a hint of discomfort. As the evening progressed, Stephanie found herself drawn to Emily, her curiosity piqued by the transformation she had witnessed. She watched as her former classmate mingled effortlessly with their peers, her warm smile and genuine kindness drawing people in like a magnetic force. Stephanie, once the undisputed queen bee of Oakwood High, found herself feeling increasingly out of place, her carefully curated persona suddenly feeling hollow and artificial in comparison to Emily's unwavering authenticity. For the first time in her life, Stephanie began to question the foundations of her own success, to wonder whether the accolades and achievements she had so fiercely pursued were truly a reflection of her worth or merely a facade to mask the insecurities that had always lurked beneath the surface. As the night wore on, Stephanie found herself gravitating towards Emily, a strange and unfamiliar desire to understand and connect with the woman she had once so mercilessly tormented. And as she approached her former classmate, the words she had rehearsed countless times suddenly felt inadequate, the weight of her past actions threatening to overwhelm her. With a deep breath, Stephanie steeled her resolve and took the first step towards reconciliation, knowing that the outcome of this encounter could forever change the course of her life. As the night of the high school reunion approached, Stephanie found herself uncharacteristically nervous. She had spent weeks meticulously planning her appearance, carefully curating every aspect of her look to ensure she made the perfect impression on her former classmates. But as she stood before the mirror, adjusting the delicate straps of her designer gown, a nagging feeling of unease began to creep into the back of her mind. Stephanie couldn't help but dwell on the memory of Emily, the quiet girl she had once tormented mercilessly during their high school days. The thought of confronting her former classmate, of having to face the consequences of her own cruelty, filled Stephanie with a mixture of dread and a strange sense of discomfort. Over the years, Stephanie had become adept at suppressing the twinge of guilt that occasionally surfaced when she reflected on her past actions. She had built a successful career, amassed wealth and status, and cultivated an image of confidence and power that had become her armor against the world. But deep down, she knew that the scars of her high school misdeeds had never fully healed. As the evening of the reunion arrived, Stephanie stepped through the doors of the old school, her head held high and her carefully crafted persona firmly in place. She scanned the room, her eyes searching for familiar faces, until suddenly she caught a glimpse of a woman who looked remarkably like Emily. Stephanie felt her breath catch in her throat as their eyes met, and for a moment, the two women simply stared at one another, the weight of their shared history hanging thick in the air. Stephanie could feel the familiar pangs of envy and insecurity rising within her, but this time there was something else, a faint glimmer of respect, mingled with a hint of discomfort. The Emily that stood before Stephanie was a far cry from the timid, withdrawn girl she remembered. Gone were the hunched shoulders and the downcast gaze, replaced by a poise and self-assurance that Stephanie found almost unnerving. Emily's eyes sparkled with a newfound confidence, and the tension that had once defined her posture had been replaced by a graceful ease. As the evening progressed, Stephanie found herself drawn to Emily, her curiosity piqued by the transformation she had witnessed. She watched as her former classmate mingled effortlessly with their peers, her warm smile and genuine kindness drawing people in like a magnetic force. Stephanie, once the undisputed queen bee of Oakwood High, found herself feeling increasingly out of place, her carefully curated persona suddenly feeling hollow and artificial in comparison to Emily's unwavering authenticity. For the first time in her life, Stephanie began to question the foundations of her own success, to wonder whether the accolades and achievements she had so fiercely pursued were truly a reflection of her worth or merely a facade to mask the insecurities that had always lurked beneath the surface. As the night wore on, Stephanie found herself gravitating towards Emily, a strange and unfamiliar desire to understand and connect with the woman she had once so mercilessly tormented. And as she approached her former classmate, the words she had rehearsed countless times suddenly felt inadequate, the weight of her past actions threatening to overwhelm her. With a deep breath, Stephanie steeled her resolve and took the first step towards reconciliation, knowing that the outcome of this encounter could forever change the course of her life. But even as she mustered the courage to confront her demons, a small part of Stephanie couldn't help but wonder, what if Emily was not willing to forgive her? What if the scars she had inflicted were too deep to ever truly heal? The uncertainty of the situation weighed heavily on her mind, and as she approached Emily, Stephanie felt a familiar sense of trepidation creeping in. As the night of the high school reunion unfolded, Stephanie found herself drawn to Emily like a moth to a flame. She couldn't shake the image of the confident, poised woman who now stood before her, a stark contrast to the timid, withdrawn girl she had once tormented. With each passing moment, Stephanie's unease only grew. She had spent so many years carefully constructing her image of success and power, but now, in the face of Emily's unwavering authenticity, her carefully curated persona felt hollow and artificial. As Stephanie watched Emily seamlessly navigate the throng of their former classmates, greeting each person with a warm smile and genuine interest, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy. These were the very same people who had once cowered in her presence, eager to bask in the glow of her popularity. But now, it seemed, the tables had turned. Stephanie, once the undisputed queen bee of Oakwood High, found herself feeling out of place and oddly self-conscious. The confidence and self-assurance that had once defined her now seemed like a mere facade, crumbling under the weight of Emily's effortless grace. Mustering her courage, Stephanie finally approached her former classmate, her heart racing with a strange mix of anticipation and trepidation. As their eyes met, Stephanie felt a jolt of recognition, a flicker of the past that refused to be extinguished. "Emily," she began, her voice uncharacteristically tentative. I'm glad to see you here." Emily responded with a warm smile, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Stephanie," she said, her tone measured and calm. "It's been a long time." The silence that followed stretched on, thick with the weight of their shared history. Stephanie felt the familiar pangs of guilt and discomfort rising within her, and for the first time in her life, she found herself at a loss for words. She started, her voice faltering. "I wanted to. I've been thinking a lot about what happened back then." Emily nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I appreciate you saying that, Stephanie. It's not easy, is it? To confront the past and our own mistakes." Stephanie felt a wave of relief wash over her, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. "No, it's not," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, Emily. For everything I put you through, I was cruel, and I know that now. I've carried that guilt with me for a long time." To her surprise, Emily reached out and gently placed a hand on her arm, the gesture both comforting and disarming. "I know, Stephanie, and I forgive you." Stephanie felt the breath catch in her throat, her eyes widening in disbelief. You forgive me?" she stammered, the words barely registering. Emily nodded, her eyes shining with a quiet understanding. "Yes, Stephanie, I forgive you. We all make mistakes, and we all have the capacity to grow and change. What matters is that we acknowledge our actions and try to do better." Stephanie felt a weight lift from her shoulders, the burden of her past sins finally easing. In that moment, she realized that the success and accolades she had so fiercely pursued had been little more than a facade, a futile attempt to outrun the demons of her past. But now, standing before Emily, she felt a sense of liberation, a newfound clarity that had eluded her for so long. The path forward, once shrouded in uncertainty, now seemed clearer than ever before. As the two women embraced, their shared history fading into the background, Stephanie knew that this moment, this reunion, would forever change the course of her life. For in the face of Emily's forgiveness, she had found the key to unlocking her true self, the self that had been buried beneath the weight of her own insecurities and the need for external validation. And as they parted ways, Stephanie couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude, for it was in this pivotal encounter that she had finally discovered the true meaning of redemption. As Stephanie stood there, her eyes locked with Emily's, a profound sense of realization washed over her. The weight of her past misdeeds, the guilt that had haunted her for so many years, seemed to melt away in the face of her former classmate's unexpected compassion. Stephanie had spent her entire life striving for success, chasing after accolades and achievements that she had once believed would fill the void within her. But now, as she gazed upon the woman who had once been the target of her cruelty, she saw a reflection of herself that she had long refused to acknowledge. Gone was the confident, ambitious Stephanie, the one who had so effortlessly commanded the respect and fear of her peers. In her place stood a woman who was finally confronting the truth of her own insecurities, the facade of power and status crumbling in the wake of Emily's unwavering grace. "I don't know what to say," Stephanie whispered, her voice barely audible above the din of the reunion. "After everything I did to you, how can you just forgive me?" Emily's expression softened, a gentle smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Because I know that we all have the capacity to change, Stephanie," she replied, her tone measured and wise. "The person you were back then is not the person you are now. And the person you become from this moment on is entirely up to you." Stephanie felt a lump rise in her throat, the weight of Emily's words settling upon her like a heavy mantle. For so long, she had defined herself by her achievements, by the external validation that had fueled her relentless pursuit of success. But now, in the face of Emily's compassion, she realized that true redemption lay not in the accolades of others, but in the quiet work of self-reflection and growth. I don't know where to start," Stephanie admitted, the vulnerability in her voice startling even herself. "So much of my life has been about building this image of success. But now, I feel like I've been running from myself all along." Emily nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "It's not easy, facing our own demons," she said. "But it's the only way we can truly heal and move forward. And Stephanie, I believe you have the strength to do it." In that moment, Stephanie felt a profound shift within her. The walls she had so carefully constructed, the armor that had protected her from the harsh realities of her past, began to crumble. And in their place, a newfound sense of purpose began to take root. A desire to not just achieve success, but to truly understand and embrace the person she was meant to become. As the two women parted ways, Stephanie couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude. For it was in this pivotal encounter, in the face of Emily's unwavering forgiveness, that she had finally found the key to unlocking her true self, the self that had been buried beneath the weight of her own insecurities and the need for external validation. In the days and weeks that followed, Stephanie found herself embarking on a journey of self-discovery, shedding the layers of her carefully curated persona and delving deep into the core of her being. It was a difficult and often painful process, but one that she was determined to see through. And as she slowly began to rebuild her life, to redefine her priorities and her sense of purpose, Stephanie couldn't help but feel a sense of profound transformation. The success and accolades that had once defined her now seemed hollow and meaningless, replaced by a newfound appreciation for the simple joys of human connection and the pursuit of genuine fulfillment. In the end, Stephanie's reunion with Emily had forever changed the course of her life, guiding her towards a path of self-acceptance, growth, and redemption. And as she looked to the future, she knew that the true measure of her worth would no longer be found in the external trappings of success, but in the person she had the power to become.